In this episode, I'd like to take a moment to share and reflect on some of the changes in our world. It's been happening so rapidly that we barely, most times, have a chance to catch our breath. But there have been some books that I've been reading that have really impacted me on a level that's made me think like I hadn't thought before. And some of us may be against many of these changes for one reason or another. But I'd like us to take a look at what those changes actually produce in us. Whether we are fighting something we can't see, can't touch, don't understand. Maybe the thing we're trying to change is in us, but we don't know how. And with all the forces coming against us, particularly in the area of technology, that seems bent on manipulating the way we think. There have been many books written on these topics in recent years, and I'd encourage you to look into them. Maybe it's all culminating into some kind of crisis that we can sense, but maybe there is a power in crisis. Maybe there is a restoration, a liberation that takes place when we come to that place of complete brokenness. What are we left with but our own humanity? And in past meditations, we've been talking about transcendence and rising above the troubles of the world. You only need to take a look at social media from one platform to the other to see the frenziedness, a fight against mortality happening at such a frightening pace that no one is looking up anymore. No one is paying any regards to his neighbor, what his neighbor's needs are, what his neighbor's name even is. And it's come to a sort of climax where, well, something has to happen, because we're almost in a blinded state of perpetual anger and hostility towards each other. And we want to know, where's the loneliness coming from? Why so many of the young and even old have no friends? This is a common thread in YouTube videos, and I have no friend. I live alone. But maybe this is an indication that we need to examine ourselves for a moment. We can take a step back from the phones and the reels and the videos and examine our hearts for a moment. And it's interesting, I was reading a book by Elie Wiesel. He was a Holocaust survivor, and he wrote a very poignant and wonderful book I would encourage you to read. It's called Night. And in this book, he describes the horrors and the suffering that no man can even imagine, let alone live through. Yet he did. And there's a story that he tells in one of the pages on On page 101 of this book called Night by Elie Wiesel, and I'll read it to you so I can describe to you how this applies to us in our daily life, in the world we live in today. On page 101, it begins. In the wagon where the bread had landed, a battle had ensued. Men were hurling themselves against each other, trampling, tearing at and mauling each other. Beasts of prey unleashed, animal hate in their eyes. An extraordinary vitality possessed them, sharpening their teeth and nails. A crowd of workmen and curious passerby had formed all along the train. They had undoubtedly never seen a train with this kind of cargo. Soon, pieces of bread were falling into the wagon from all sides, and the spectators observed these emaciated creatures ready to kill for a crust of bread. A piece fell into our wagon. I decided not to move. Anyway, I knew that I could not be strong enough to fight off dozens of violent men. I saw, not far from me, an old man dragging himself on all fours. He had just detached himself from the struggling mob. He was holding one hand to his heart. At first, I thought he had received a blow to his chest. Then I understood. He was hiding a piece of bread under his shirt. With lightning speed, he pulled it out and put it to his mouth. His eyes lit up. A smile, like a grimace, illuminated his ashen face and was immediately extinguished. A shadow had lain down beside him, and this shadow threw itself over him. Stunned by the blows, the old man was crying. "Mir, my little Mir, don't you recognize me? You're killing your father. I have bread for you too, for you too." He collapsed, but his fist was still clutching a small crust of bread. He wanted to raise it to his mouth, but the other threw himself on him. The old man mumbled something, groaned, and died. Nobody cared. His son searched him, took the crust of bread, and began to devour it. He didn't get far. 2 men had been watching him. They jumped on him. Others joined in. When they withdrew, there were 2 dead bodies next to me, the father and the son. I was 16. I'll stop there for a moment to just add my thoughts and give more clarity of the context. Elie Wiesel is in a cattle car, and at this point in the book, they have been shuffled from one camp to another. They have had very little to eat, if anything, and they are out of strength. The Allied forces are moving in, so the Germans decide to move them further away, lessening the chance of them being liberated. The goal is to extinguish every Jew. And so they are placed on a cattle car with no ceiling. It's pouring down snow, heavy snow, and they are transported from one place to the other. And in this car, he's with his father, who is on the brink of death himself. And Ellie is describing what he sees. And I find this to be quite striking, in that it paints a picture of us to each other and of us with God. The father is represented here by the old man, who represents God, and his son is beating him for a crust of bread. His son is not listening to him as he cries, "Son, I have enough, for you too." Yet in our frenzied state, we don't hear God crying. We don't hear God saying, "Stop beating me, son. I have enough for you." And we are like this mob. We have become a mob. Whether a physical mob, a technological mob, any word or adjective you like to attach to it. We have become mindless and incensed with greed, to the point of our own destruction coming, and yet we do not see it. Over a piece of bread. The bread here represents money, power, influence, the flight of mortality that has driven the desires of men from the beginning of time till now. And I ask you, particularly those who are believers, born again, is this your purpose? We are being retrained on how to think and how to treat each other. We are being programmed by these devices and these programs by billionaires. Billionaires, people who have bread enough for the whole world, and yet they still want more. At our expense. At the expense of your loneliness, at the expense of your mental health, at the expense of the mental health of your own children. The new trend is to use children to elicit views and influence, and to work with advertisers and big companies who would pay you millions, I'm sure. Yet I see in so many of these videos children crying, children running away from the phones and the cameras, children pleading with their mothers through their eyes, "Mother, stop. I am not a piece of bread. Mother, please, stop beating me. Stop humiliating me in front of the whole world. Mother, have compassion on me." And I feel that we're coming to a place where we will have to see. There's always a crisis that arises that forces us to see again and again and again. And I'm sure at this time that Elie Wiesel is describing, perhaps this was a time where a crisis had to occur. The senseless extinguishing of innocent lives through one man's powerful words of hate and dissent. These are the words and the philosophies that we have resorted to unknowingly. Whether you use that name or you use another name, it doesn't matter. Because the symptoms are the same. I will take you down because I don't care about you. This is about me and my crust of bread. This is about me prolonging my life and escaping suffering at every and any cost. One of the things I've found so interesting in my research of Holocaust survivors and their testimonies, in almost every single one of them, they describe, and these are the survivors, they describe a desire to help the one who was next to them, whether it was a father, a sister, a brother. And I've heard again and again through their testimonies, and I've seen through their own words, the ones who sought to save themselves died. There is not a single testimony that I have read where a survivor has said, I sought to save myself alone. They all perished. So what is this that our Father is trying to say to us? We are beating him with our hate, with our angry words, with our obsession with money, with our pursuit of things that perish before or after us. Either way, we all are going in the same direction. And we all go to the same place. Unless he who is to come returns. That is the end. So our Father is saying, stop beating me. I have enough, even for you. And the stories of these survivors are so miraculously beautiful in that they went on for generations and generations. Their testimonies live on even after they have passed on, strengthening us now in our own suffering, in our own miseries, most of which are carnal miseries. Ili talks about transcending death itself in a camp where bodies are piled up against each other. Emaciated bodies of men, sons and fathers who had gone without bread or even a drop of water for days. No desire fulfilled, no humanity bestowed upon them. So I say to you, what is your goal in life? The loneliness is coming from our willingness to separate, our willingness to see our brothers and sisters as simply something in our way. I must have that crust of bread. But Father is saying to us, stop beating me, son. There's no need to fight. If you look up and you look up to me, you will see all of the abundance I've placed in front of you. And the Holocaust survivors all went on to live happy, successful, productive, inspirational lives. They have written books. They have lectured talks. They became doctors and philosophers and scientists who sought to help the world with their knowledge. And I'm sure there was not a day that passed by that they didn't recall the horrors of those years during the Holocaust. Transcendence. This is transcendence in the most glorious form. Transcend these carnal desires and listen to your Father. Look into your child's eyes before you put that phone and microphone and camera in front of their face one more time. Look at yourself. Hear your Father's voice saying, I have enough even for you. But this is not the way. So I pray that in this time that I've spent, that the carnal mind that has been programmed to retaliate and to hate and to be bitter would have been marginally suppressed. And the little one who's been buried inside of you, the voice of God drowned out by the greed and the internal strive to gain, if for a moment can be silenced,